inspire you?
Well, what I see in Joe is what I feared would happen to Joe. He's very sensible. That was a good interview. I think he's trying to be honest and frank. He's not throwing anyone under the bus. But this is what I feared from Joe when he was made captain. He's not the bubbly, happy, cheerful character that he was when he came in the team. And senior players haven't stood up on the field. And he doesn't look a happy figure. He's a very deflated man at the minute. Down by his team, off the field. It's not particularly inspiring, but it's not his fault.
I suppose he's always been the type to lead by example, maybe, rather than the big verbal volleys. It's not that's not his personality, is it?
No, but I think, you know, that the way that he speaks, he spoke pretty well throughout this tour. You know, I don't think he's going to be one of these that goes smashing anything in the dressing room, throwing a few teacups, but, you know, I do think he's missed a trick this week. You know, I really do think this was the week that I wanted England just to be. Is it ruthless or is it sensible? England have lost 9 out of 13 away from home in the last 2 years. They've gone pretty much with the same team. I'd have changed it up. And you get that stage as a captain, as a leader, that you have to send a message to the group. I personally want to play Stuart Broad this week. And as a leader, that would have been my message to the group, that wait a minute, yep, I'm not clearing Stuart Broad out for good. He hasn't bowled well enough. He hasn't bowled well in 2017. He's averaging over 40. You kind of look at that and think that was maybe an opportunity missed for Joe to just send a message to the group saying, all right, no one's safe. But at the minute, this England side, it is quite a safe environment. Batsmen get dropped now and again, but the bowling unit for 2 years away from home haven't performed. They've got a spinner who's averaging 100 here. He averages 60 in 2 years away from home. He averages 32 with the bat, yet he gets another opportunity. You had Mason Crane waiting in the wings. You got Mark Wood waiting in the wings. I would have just changed it up a little bit more, and that would have been my message as a captain to the team as, you know, I'm going to be a little bit ruthless here and just send a little bit of a shiver through the group by a couple of selection changes.
Not been ruthless enough, Jeffrey, or has he got enough to go to?
He doesn't have a lot to go to. I'm obviously worried about him because he's a sort of nice lad, very good player, that nobody dislikes. Big factor that. Nobody dislikes Joe Root. It's not about liking him. You can't find anybody with real criticism. He's batting, he's a nice lad, the interview's lovely, he's not throwing, as he said, under the bus any player. But you could make statements, if you left Stewart out, you should leave Moeen Ali out. His bowling hasn't done anything at all. And you have to make some impact on the bowling. We know the batsmen have to improve, but the bowling have to too. They don't look as if, as a unit, they're going to actually bowl Australia out. Stark said, you haven't taken 20 wickets yet. You haven't bowled us out twice.
It's easier to make those changes when you're scoring runs yourself.
Yeah.
As a captain, if you've got a couple of hundreds by you can make any change you want, because, you know, Joe Root makes the change this week, and that's the only kind of excuse I can give him. The senior or the Broads and the Moeen Ali's going, wait a minute, what have you done on this tour? So that's probably the only excuse I can give him.
Swanee, they'll confirm the team at the toss, and we're assuming, obviously, that Tom Curran starts. There was some concern that Moeen Ali might have sustained some kind of injury. Mason Crane might have played. It seems that's not the case, but what do you make of what the two lads have said about ruthlessness?
Well, they're absolutely spot on. This time last year, Steve Smith said enough's enough with Australia. They were embarrassing as a nation. This team that are playing so, even at home, they'd just lost. And he shook it all up. He was ruthless. They cut out 4 or 5 players, brought a new team in, and this is Steve Smith's Australia now. This isn't Joe Root's England. This is still Alistair Cook's England team that's playing. Alistair Cook's set of bowlers. And Vaughan is dead right. I mean, if you're not performing, and the stats do add up for a few people, Joe Root's got to say at some stage, this is my team, this is how I shape it. I think that would have been a lot easier for him to do had Ben Stokes been here. I think he's a bit isolated because he's not got anyone sort of his
in his corner
coming up. Yeah.
Strong stuff, interesting stuff. The toss is upon us. What, 4 or 5 minutes away? We'll be back with that here at the MCG in just a few minutes' time. They are streaming in, ready for the Boxing Day test. We're enjoying the sunshine. Hopefully, we'll enjoy the cricket. You've heard some strong words from our contingent. Too strong? Are we getting a bit panicked here?
I think it's a tough call on Joe Root. No question. I think as a captain, you're only as good as what players perform for you, and so I feel like he's been let down a little bit by his players out there. And from the selection side of things, I'm sure he has a fair say in selection, but he probably isn't the only say as well. So probably tough calls there. I think this series could be the making of Joe Root as a person, as a player, and as a captain. I'm sure he'll learn a lot about himself and really grow from this experience.
We shall see. We shall see. Of course, he's been winning tosses and losing matches. Won 3, lost all 3 thus far. But the toss here in Melbourne is just about upon us under blazing blue skies. Let's join Mark Nicholas and the 2 skippers.
Hi everybody, beautiful day at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. We're out in the middle ready for the toss. The match referee Ranjan Madigali, Joe Root and Steve Smith are with me, and Steve has the coin.
Heads is the coin. Tails it is.
We'll have a bat.
Steve Smith has won the toss.
We'll have a bat.
And is batting first. No great surprise there. Beautiful conditions for batsmen today.
Yeah, it looks a nice wicket. It was probably ready about 4 days ago. I think he's just been sitting on the roller, so looks like a pretty nice wicket, and hopefully we can post a big first innings total.
You guys have a good day yesterday?
Yeah, it was good. Great to have the cricket family around, everyone else's families, and it seems to be getting bigger and bigger every year. So it was a nice day, and boys had a good lunch and are ready to go today.
With the Ashes won, does part of you feel the pressure's off, or are you now gunning so hard for 5-0 that the pressure's back on?
Pressure's obviously off a little bit, having won the Ashes, but at the same time we want to keep winning. We want to make it a habit, and there's a great opportunity for us out here.
Okay, and no Mitchell Starc, that's confirmed, and Jackson Bird's in, who performs well here?
Yeah, one change, obviously. Jackson's waited a year to play a test match. He's worked incredibly hard around the group, and it's great to see him get an opportunity out here. Obviously, a bit stiff for Mitch getting injured, but hopefully he'll be back next test match.
In general, this is a phenomenal occasion, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, and the crowd have come in nice and early, and yeah, can't wait to see it later on this afternoon. It's going to be golden.
All right, we wish you well. Thanks, Steve. I'm sure you'd like to have batted first as well, Joe.
Absolutely, it looks a good wicket. We've just got to make sure that we try and make the most of it this morning and take early wickets.
Yeah, what about your motivations? It's been a difficult few weeks for you, but there's a lot to prove, particularly to a lot of fans here.
Absolutely, that's exactly the challenge for us. Still plenty to play for in this series. If we can go away with 2 wins at the back end of this tour, then we'll be very happy.
What have you done with your team?
We've got one change. Tom Curran comes in for Craig Overton, make his debut. Very excited for him. He's very excited himself, and he's a real competitor, so looking forward to seeing how he goes about it.
So with yesterday Christmas Day, today Boxing Day in this extraordinary stadium, you must be up for it, you blokes.
Absolutely. This is a great venue. It's a great occasion, and we're all very excited to get underway.
All right, go well. Have a great match.
So Australia have won the toss and unsurprisingly will bat. As confirmed then, that one change for England, with Tom Curran making his debut in place of the injured Craig Overton. There's been some chat here at the desk about whether he could have been perhaps more revolutionary with some of his selections, but that's the team that England selectors have chosen. And also Steve Smith confirming that Mitchell Starc unfit to play here, thus Jackson Bird gets his chance in that bowling attack that's performed so excellently thus far in a series that Australia have already secured 3-0 up with 2 to play. Well, his luck had to change, didn't it, on the toss front, and it was no surprise that the Aussies will bat.
No surprise at all. I mean, you go back to 2010-11, England bowled first, bowled Australia out for 98, and at the end of that day we're naught down, I think, for 160. This looks a different kind of wicket. It looks an absolute road. It looks very dry. Steve Smith said himself that it probably was ready 4 days ago, so for Tom Curran on debut, a great occasion, but it's not going to be easy out there. I can't imagine it's going to swing a great deal. I don't think it'll have a huge amount of pace, so whatever chances England get this morning, they're going to have to take.
How do they make chances and take them? How do they on a pitch that's going to be pretty bat friendly?
With great difficulty. Simple as that. I looked at the pitch, it's very dry, very straw coloured. I'll be amazed if it doesn't turn. I think it will turn, so it's important whoever bats first, when they do, they make a big total, because you really don't want to be batting 4th afternoon, 5th day. They've got a better spinner than England, so if they can take wickets this morning. But look, they've bottled Warner up, that's the one good thing.
Yes.
They've got to find a way to get Smith out, not necessarily cheaply. If you get him out for 40 would be good.
That'd be amazing.
You've got to do, like I mentioned last test, a bit of a Bradman, find a way.
Yes.
Joe's had some very interesting field settings. I think that's been really good. You see that he's thinking about it. It's just, can the bowlers put it in the right position?
How are England going to get Steve Smith out?
I think they need to go right back to basics. Don't worry about all the funky fields. top of off stump, be patient, be disciplined. He is human. He can make mistakes, you know, and it just takes one ball, one little error for him to make a mistake. So that's what I do. But just on this pitch, if it is going to do anything, it's going to do it in the first probably 40 minutes to an hour. So if England can get a couple of early ones, then that will go a long way. And this pitch doesn't really break up too much. It'll generally flattens out, gets a little bit slower as the game goes on. The Sheffield Shield games here have been very, very flat as the game's worn on. So no demons for England in the back end of this match, so that they can chase down anything on the last day.
Okay, well,
I think Joe has to tell his players, look, forget about trying to win the test match first. I want all of you to think, most of us, me included, can improve our batting and bowling. Do your own skill better. Think about, you should have been thinking about that before the test, because if you all individually improve 5%, you know, that's a lot, 55%. I'll deal with the field.
You're good with your maths, aren't you?
Yeah, you deal with improving. If you're trying to bowl it at top of off stump, make sure you get it there. Yeah. Don't get clever, and just think of this morning session. Don't get ahead of yourself. Let's improve our own individual skill. Then we'll give all the supporters, you know, a nice day. We'll do better. Yeah. That's all you have to think, session at a time. Now, it's about winning the test. You haven't got near winning yet. Just think of one session, bowl better, catch everything, and take it one session at a time.
100,000 we think going to be in here by the time they all get here this morning. Special place Boxing Day test. It doesn't get much better than this cricket-wise.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. Huge stadium, packed crowd. For the players, all their families come over and they're at the team hotel. Great Christmas bash yesterday, so they'll be really excited. But I can tell you there's a lot of nerves as well. I just want the game to get going.
Oh, that's good to know. There's a few nerves. We'll try and play on those.
There's always is. I feel for Tom Curran as well, but maybe good for him just to get out there, get his first spell underway, perhaps pick up an early wicket, and that'll help him deal with the pressure as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned Stewart amongst the other bowlers. They've, in a way, got a point to prove for all that they've done, for all that they've had this long, illustrious career. You have to keep proving it.
Yeah, you do. You have to keep making sure that you perform. As Jeffrey said, they've bowled up David Warner quite nicely in this series. I've just got a funny feeling Warner, with this atmosphere and this kind of crowd, he's going to come out and play a few strokes. He's not going to play defensively, so the first hour of play might just do a little bit, and I think we'll see a few shots, so it's going to be great value.
Let's get a closer look at the pitch. Are there any hidden demons anywhere in it? Graham Swan and Damien Fleming are up there.
Yeah, thanks, Matty. Merry Christmas to everyone as well. Swanee, I can see why Joe Root batted first. There is not a lot of gremlins in this pitch, is there? As we go down and have a little bit of a look, that's nice and hard. Just look at these grass cuttings here. They're about 2 millimetres more than last year's test match, but you wouldn't say it's live green grass, would you?
No, this looks like a belting pitch. It is a very Merry Christmas, and the Australian batsmen won't believe their luck that they'll get a first dig on this. Tom Curran to have a bowl. You know, it's not a bad in your first test to get a bowl under your belt, maybe get a wicket like Mike Hussey said, but I don't think there's going to be much in it for you lot.
What about for Nathan Lyon, the spinner? Can you see there is grass patches? There is a little bit of, you can see some cracking already, but I'd say that we have got some hot weather. For this to actually break up, I think we'd need weather of about 30 degrees. But what about Nathan Lyon on day one?
Well, this is a pitch where Nathan Lyon's not had a great result over the years, and from playing here myself, it doesn't turn hardly at all. It's probably the flattest of the wickets, and there's not a lot of bounce. So I don't expect the spinners to come into it too much, which could be a good thing for Mo Ali, because he's not had a great series, so he won't be expected to take many wickets, and you know, that might actually work in his favour.
And from a fast bowling perspective, probably the best spell I've seen England was in your tour 2010-11.
Can we talk about that, yeah.
Bresnan, Tremlett, not so much yourself, but we talk about the MCG, this tennis ball length. So you don't want to be bowling short of a length on day one. You want to be further down near this danger area here, and I think that's what Bresnan, Anderson and Tremlett did on that day. I think that's what Bresnan, Anderson and Tremlett did on that day one, where they bowled out Australia.
Well, yeah, there was a bit more moisture in the air that day. There was a bit more cloud cover, but we just bowled good lengths outside the off stump, and nearly all the Aussie batsmen were out nicking. It's a big ground for nicking off, but you can bowl straight as the game goes on.
Yeah, well, overall, great day for batting for England. Good conditions.
A little bit more here as well without Mitchell Starc in the Australian side, but I caught up with him a few days ago. Well, Mitch, is being an Ashes winner all it's cracked up to be?
Yeah, it was certainly pretty special in the change rooms after the game. Quite surreal once we were walking off the ground and sort of got inside, and all our families were in there, and I was in the change rooms with all the boys, but yeah, it was pretty good.
What's this for a celebration? Magnificent century.
Have you allowed yourself a moment of reflection, or is it now sort of straight on to the last 2 test matches?
I think probably Monday night and Tuesday, me personally, I was able to reflect on the game and what the team had achieved. I sort of felt like I sort of parachuted in there for the 3rd test and won a national series, but once Tuesday rolled around, it was back into it, and we've obviously still got a lot of hard work ahead of us in this series.
150 now for Mitchell Marsh. A day of milestones for the hometown hero.
Having played the 1 test and made the impact that you have, does that make you feel more motivated to play a fuller role with still 2 test matches to go?
Yeah, I don't think I'm necessarily more motivated. I think every test match you go out and play, you try and score as many runs as you can, and I try and take as many wickets as I can for the team. So, I've still got a big job to do this week at Boxing Day.
Are you discussing the use of the bouncer amongst yourselves still? Because there has been a lot of discussion in the media, particularly about whether the umpires should be stepping in. What's the take from the fast bowlers unit?
Oh, look, I think it's a tactical at Boxing Day.
Are you discussing the use of the bouncer amongst yourselves still? Because there has been a lot of discussion in the media, particularly about whether the umpires should be stepping in. What's the take from the fast bowlers unit?
Oh, look, I think it's a tactical. Christmas lunch, trying to eat too much on Christmas Day and be right for Boxing Day, but it's a special week and certainly one that you take it all in.
And the sense of occasion really is building here at the G.
Day and be right for Boxing Day, but it's a special week and certainly one that you take it all in.
And the sense of occasion really is building here at the G as well. Flem, Graham, maybe Mitch Marsh, he is one of the, well, a few selections that the Aussies have made that have really come good.
Well, they have. They got a lot of criticism first off for Bancroft, Payne, and then Gut retained, haven't they? I think Tim Payne's probably been the best of those. Then they dropped Peter Hanscom, averaging 47 for Mitchell Marsh. He scores 180, bowls some handy overs. So I think all the selections have worked well for Australia. And even Jackson Bird, I mean, he averages 4 wickets a test match. He's that not quite as quick as, say, a Hazelwood or Cummins, but he's tall and bouncy and a bit of an MCG specialist.
Graham, England had a few newer players.
So hopefully those guys can, kick on today.
Well, a selection that England have made today is a test cap for Tom Curran. And he's actually been in the game for quite a while. 2015, a big breakthrough season for him in the county championship. But I mean, he's played a decent amount of cricket there and a good record.
No, good stats. I actually played with his father, with Kevin. He was my first captain at Northampton. And if Tom's anything like him, and I think he is, the self-belief this kid will have will be incredible, because one guy I always sort of, during my career, whenever a time got hard or I didn't think I was playing well, I just think of Kevin Curran. The self-belief that he had, technically not brilliant, but he just believed in himself at all times, backed himself. That's what Tom Curran will need to do out there today.
Well, I think that's what they're saying, aren't they? They've gone with the most competitive player. They needed to make a change, so even if they do lose this Ashes series, at least have some emerging talent. So Milan, Stoneman, Vince have shown signs. If Tom Curran can be ticked off, well, then you can say, listen, we've got a team going forward that can win the Ashes.
You've had a look at the pitch, Graham. As an off-spinner yourself, would you have dropped or played Moeen Ali? Would you have brought Mason Crane in?
Personally, I'd have gone Mason Crane, because I don't think Mo's performed with about all the ball at the minute. He can't be trusted and relied upon. And I'd like to see Mason Crane come through, because, the Ashes is gone. I think Joe's got to now say, this is my Ashes team, my England team moving forward. And I think sticking with Mo at the minute when he's so out of form isn't the way to do it.
No, I would have made the change as well. I'd like to see Curran come in and also Mason Crane, just for that theory, what I said before. If you lose with an emerging team, well, at least you've got some bonuses out of it.
Well, there's been a huge difference between the performances of Moeen Ali and Nathan Lyon if you're comparing directly the two off-spinners. And Mo's only managed, just 3 wickets in the test matches that he's played, Graham.
Well, that's it. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, Lyon's bowled exceptionally well, averaging 26, 14 wickets, 12 of those at left-handed batsmen, it must be said. So the right-handers are playing him well. He doesn't enjoy bowling at right-handers, but Mo doesn't enjoy bowling at all at the minute. Look at those stats. 3 wickets at 105. He's not doing a first in his job of containing or a second in his job of taking wickets. And he's not scoring runs either, so he really is a player who needs to buck his ideas up.
Mo, for me, in Australian conditions, looks like a part-time spinner playing a front-line role. So I would have, if he was going to play, he had to play as a top 6 batsman, or top 7 if Bairstow bats 6, and you had to play another spinner.
Well, I suppose, looking on a bright side, maybe he'll find some turn at this MCG pitch. Speed, you're not having a funny. Speed, though, let's talk about speed, because that has been, again, a mark marked difference and a big conversation point over the last few days since the last Test match. Mitchell Starc isn't playing here, obviously. He is now injured, but Cummins, Hazelwood, and then Jackson Bird comes into the reckoning for Australia. What's he going to offer?
So he's a tall outswing bowler. He'll bowl probably around that Wokes' speed, but he'll pitch up a little bit fuller.
Come on, Ben.
He'll bowl
nowhere near Wokes. Low 80s.
He'll
low
bowl
80s.
about Stark's pace.
Well, this Australian propaganda machine, Stark said the other day, oh, mate, he's as quick as we are. He's right up there.
No, he's not as quick as them.
He's not.
That is Stark.
But he is a guy they talk about that it always bounces at least 10 centimetres more than you think. So on an MCG pitch, you know, that extra bounce will come into play. He also bowls reverse swing quite well.
Well, reverse swing could play a big role. David Saker's talked about that during MCG matches. We are only 15 minutes away from the start now, and with England bowling first, well, big day for Tom Curran making his Test debut, and he will find himself in the thick of the action before too long. Don't go anywhere. Boxing Day Test match and the anthems coming up after the break.